Hi guys, how are you doing? Shelby Kushma here, your health and wellness coach and your consciousness guide. So I thought I would just take a moment and do a little video around a subject that a lot of people are dealing with right now, which is the feelings of rejection and abandonment. And if you are a human and you're in a body and you're living on this planet, you have probably experienced some sort of feelings of rejection or abandonment in your life. I wanted to go to the point of creation of where this emotion stems from. My intent is to help bring some clarity to that emotion, one of those deep human fears, and also to provide some relief if it's something that you are experiencing currently, if it's very active in your world right now. So we have core fears as human beings that we come in with. They've evolved over time. They've evolved with our ancestors who were living in tribes, and we were living in tribes. They've evolved from past lifetimes. We were all living in tribal communities at some point in time, or our ancestors were, or somebody in our bloodline was. So epigenetics has shown that we carry up to 10 generations of cellular memory in our DNA. So fears that our ancestors had or somebody in our bloodline had, we actually carry that in our genetic code. And depending on what's going on in your world, those emotions that are encoded genetically in your DNA can get activated. And one of the core human fears and emotions is rejection and abandonment. And I'm going to explain why I think that it feels so detrimental. And you could be sort of misplacing or misidentifying anger, sadness, frustration for actually old fears of rejection and abandonment. So here's the theory. You may have heard it before. It's not something that I made up. It's something that's been around for a while. This is something that's been going on in history for a long time. So the reason why rejection and abandonment feels so terrible. When we were living in tribes and in tribal communities, or our ancestors were, if you were rejected from the tribe, right? If you were exiled, or if maybe you got lost from the group, more than likely you would be out of food sources, because as a community we all work together, hunters and gatherers, and we were working in those tribes together, providing for one another. You would be out of a food source. Number two, you would not be in the pack, right? So the animal or the being that is sort of lost from the pack is subject to vulnerable to attacks, right? So danger. And number three is that you actually could die. So when you think about the feelings of rejection and abandonment, and let's just say that that's happening for you in your current world, whether you've been rejected by a person, or a breakup, or a job, a project, it feels so detrimental because in your genetic encoding, you actually feel like you could die. Like your triggers of safety and security are so deep that it is the fear of death. And I know that's dramatic and extreme, but if you think about that, and if you let that land in your heart and in your soul around the feelings of rejection and abandonment, you can feel into the deepness of that. So what do we do about that, right? If you feel like you have had some of that in your life, and you feel like you're going through it now and it's activated, I would go back and see if you can just breathe into your heart space and into your mind and ask to be taken back to the first time that you experienced rejection or abandonment. And that could bring you back to a time in your childhood. That could bring you back to pre-birth. That could bring you to a memory that maybe somebody in your bloodline had about actually being rejected from the tribe. And what I'd like you to do is put your hands on your heart and feel into what that feels like. Lean into the feeling of actually being rejected or abandoned, and the feeling that you actually could die, that you're not safe, that you're not supported here on this planet. And go into that person, go into that memory, and tell that person that they are okay, that that experience is not as extreme as you are feeling. In fact, you are supported and more supported than you've ever been in your lifetime. We understand that the feelings of that are different, but we understand where they come from. And we start to go in and we give that feeling the emotional response that wasn't received back then. So putting your hands on your heart and telling that soul, telling that person, telling that memory, it's okay. You are supported. You're not going to die. You're here. I know that it feels painful, but we're experiencing pain from the past. We're experiencing pain from a very deep core human wound of rejection and abandonment from the tribe. So I hope that helps. I hope that brings some clarity if you're going through that in your life, and understand that a lot of people create a lot of stuff in their life to not feel that, right? So that is a painful emotion, and it takes a lot of courage to go into. And people do a lot of things like distract themselves with drugs and alcohol and egoic activities and possessions to not feel that emotion. But once you have actually felt that emotion, you take your power back from it. So you can walk through this earth and on this planet confident and powerful and secure, no matter what happens on the external. If you need more support with this, you can contact me. I'm an energy healer, I'm a spiritual coach, and I work with people and walk them through if they've had specific experiences in their lives, dealing with relationships or jobs or childhood memories. So if you need more support on this, please contact me and we can get a session going. I do private calls, I do remote calls, and I hope that this helps. And Sat Nam.